Whoa!
Welcome.
I was singing a song to the countdown music.
I was dancing to it. Well, here we are after a little bit of technical difficulties, but we made it.
I know, right? It's one of the problems with me. I'm such an old when it comes to computers. I thought I was like clever because I was into computers back in the day before other people were, but I have not kept up with the way things have moved. And I get lost every time I look at a computer. I don't even want to look at this one.
Hopefully it'll be easy. Like going forward, it's just hit one button and then
what happened to that? That used to be like the aim, it seemed, was to try to get as close to hit one button as possible. And now everything's a stop. There's a paywall. There's a wait. You need 16 fucking passwords.
I had to sign up for a membership before we could do this. So we're here. We're on StreamYard and we're not playing around. Okay.
Okay. Right. We're not playing around. What do you want to talk about?
So how have you been?
Oh Lord. I hate that question. I have not been. I don't think I've ever been well, so I can't say I'm fine. My phone broke the other day. I don't have a phone. That's fun. And I have to wait. I have to pay stupid money to get it replaced, which is annoying.
I know your phone called me at 5 a.m, but I was dead asleep, and I woke up. I was like, "Is there an emergency?"
It's a ghost. I know, right? 5 a.m. It's a ghost in the machine. It keeps dialing things. It dialed some guy the other day. I didn't even know, and it was a friend of Lamar's. And it keeps trying to swipe up and to the left. It's like the Zapruder film.
Technology
back into the left. So I think technology hates me. I'm that kind of guy that walks up to computers and people, someone's on the computer and I walk up and all of a sudden they're like, "What happened?" Or something malfunctions, just be like, got too close. And that's one of those. That's one of those confirmation bias things. I don't know if that's true. It just seems like it happens enough.
It's because you're too real.
There was a thing I saw recently about kinetic energy is what I would have called it. They were calling it something else, but how it affects people. It does. I make people nervous. Stuff like that. Just being in the room sometimes it makes people nervous.
Yeah.
And it's taken me years to figure out that it's I don't know, that it's a thing that happens and but the people that it affects don't really recognize what that is. And often they get mad at me. People throw a lot of hostility at me for no reason, I think, but for these reasons.
For your old kinetic energy.
These creepy mystical reasons that don't really exist in the real world. They're only a part of our magical thinking.
So I had done a video recently about cognitive distortions.
Yes.
And my friend Danny here watched it and he was like, shocked at how many things
I'm sorry, I'll let you talk.
Go ahead. We're about how we stayed in Scientology or how people stay in Scientology, if you will.
Specifically, what I found fascinating about it was, and I have found as I've been in the mental health world, so many of the things that we're working on to get rid of, to work against, to repair are the things that Scientology very much installs. Right.
Yeah.
And that was the joke of magical thinking is certainly one of those things.
The fortune telling, the mind reading, the jumping to conclusions. These are all things that Scientology. They teach you. There you go. The magical
and it's the same
thinking.
thing I feel about, my prayers and thoughts and all that. It's your prayers and thoughts. Yay. Your postulate.
What do you think about that? Is there something
to be said? There's something to be said to a collective consciousness. If everybody believes that we're going to win the battle, that absolutely is going to change. It's going to affect the outcome. It's going to affect your ability to actually fight whatever it is. But then people rely too heavily on this idea that I can sit here and do nothing and just think real hard about it, and then everything will work out. And I don't think it really works that way. There's an old Scientology joke. You want to hear an old Scientology joke? I remember when I was a kid, it's 3 Scientologists sitting in a diner or a bar, and they're trying to get the waitress's attention, right? And so the PC, he's postulating really hard. I'm going to get her to come over here. I'm just going to think so hard about it. And she don't feel it. She don't know. She doesn't do a thing. She's way over there. She doesn't give a shit. So the clear he's like, let me show you how it's done, right? And he's gonna postulate and postulate real fucking hard. And it doesn't work. Waitress doesn't come over. And maybe she notices, but she doesn't come over. And so you know what the OT8 does? Yo, waitress. The joke.
Oh my God.
Joke is the real
stupid.
Positive effect is to actually do something.
I love it. It's totally right. Right? It's like the big joke at the end of the OT levels where you find out essentially that you were mocking it all up after all of that. Like, that's what they tell you at the very end. Is like, by the way, it was all just you mocking this up. And now you're you. Congratulations.
Well, yeah, but there's truth to that. The idea.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, right.
But imagine spending $400,000 to audit all these body thetans off and all of this kind of stuff, and then be told, like, well, actually,
it very often feels like he was making it up as he goes along, and so like he'd get to the end of it and go, "Well, it was just you," like, and I don't know if he had any real logic to it or
I think he was trying to treat his own mental illness, to be honest.
Right. I think that's probably the case. And whether, I often wonder like about his intentions. Were the intentions to heal, or were the intentions just to make some money, or were the intentions just to have power in the world, where he did not otherwise? David Miscavige very much seems to be a man just clinging to money and power, where he knows very well that outside of that space, he wouldn't have either of those things. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I'm pretty certain I get him. But
this is an interesting topic. Like, do you think David Miscavige is a believer? Because people have very different thoughts about this.
Here's what I think of David Miscavige, and having seen him in person up close, you're not allowed to look at him or talk to him, but I did look. And he's not just very short, he's very, very slight. He's a tiny, tiny little man. And when he was young, when he was L. Ron Hubbard's communicator, he was even smaller. And I'm willing to bet what I know of boys of that age, of that size, they get forgotten sometimes. Sometimes people forget you're even in the room. And I'm sure he's the kind of kid who took advantage of that and probably witnessed things and heard things he wasn't supposed to see and wasn't supposed to hear. So if he was ever a true believer, I'm sure that all got jaded right out of him. I'm sure he's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he just knows too much about L. Ron Hubbard personally, and more than I would imagine. But that's hypothetical. I don't really know if that's true.
I would think the same.
The idea of the communicator and what that meant, certainly what it meant to me as a kid, was like, that was access. That was a special position. That was an elevated kind of like, you were granted access in a way that others were not. And
I mean, you saw the old man doing his psych drugs and all
right. He probably saw him getting high. He probably saw him jerking off. He probably saw him taking a dump. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? I bet you he did shit in front of people. Like Eisenhower used to do that. He used to make people huddle around the bathroom door while he took a dump.
That's so messed up.
And he would carry on like briefings. He would carry on like real like official affairs.
Imagine the ego,
Well, that's the point. Like, yeah. That's the point.
It has to be. We have a funny comment. It's like Tom Cruise getting Botox. What about his causation over must? So fake. Yeah, I mean, he's very causative because he went and got his Botox, right?
Well, obviously, what really broke my heart is when Kelly Preston died. And I felt like, ooh, that's not supposed to happen like that, right? And there was a bunch of them. Lisa Marie's kid died. And of course, Jet.
Kelly Preston's son died. Yeah, Jet died.
Jet died. Well, Jet was sick. Jet was born sick. Yeah. Jet was born with a severe amount of problems. He was our patient. So, that was going to happen. But Kelly, like these other people who otherwise were, comparatively speaking, healthier. It's in the Scientology concept, that shit cancer doesn't take Scientologists. You can postulate that shit right out, right? I'm sorry. It's bad to be sarcastic about cancer, but this is the way. That's what I was taught. That's how I was taught to think.
I'm curious how people like my mom, who I haven't spoken to in about 8 years, or she hasn't spoken to me in about 8 years. I'm curious because I know for a fact her friends are dropping like flies at this point to cancer and other things.
Well, that's what happens when you hold on to
secrets. Yeah, but how are they still so convinced? I mean, come on, man. Like,
that's what I meant when Kelly Preston died. I felt like that was going to change some minds. If nothing else, John Travolta's mind. I don't know what he's up to. So I keep seeing things somewhere that says, "Oh, John Travolta's left the church," but I don't know if that's true. But I
almost feel like he might be wiling out a little bit, or I hope. Maybe that's just wistful
thinking.
He
be? Who's he got left now? You know, he loses his kid, loses his wife.
His daughter and him are cute. Friends. Yeah.
And
Kirstie Alley.
Kirstie. That one was hard. I liked her. She was cool.
She was really. She was.
She got to Scientology through Narconon. That's a big funnel. Or used to be. I don't know if it still is.
Yeah.
But
they've like closed them all down for murdering patients or whatever they have done, you know.
Oh, fantastic. For, made up practices.
No, there's still some, but like it really is they put them through the Pure
so much. She really used to sing their praises so hard. But she relapsed a bunch of times, so I don't know if she was still at the end. But.
I wonder, I mean, what does like the president's office do with these people who are clearly influential but are having issues with drugs, you know?
They lie and hide it, cover it up, right? Don't we know what they did with Danny Masterson? They knew what he was doing and they didn't like try to fix him? Because it's funny, propaganda, right? So I can remember the propaganda so hard about how psychiatry presumed to have all the answers, but really they had none. And there was some secret recording of some psychiatrist admitting that they didn't really know how to fix anything. The irony being, of course, it's Scientology that does that insists they have these solutions, but really they have none. So they know that, you know what I mean? They're projecting their lie, but inside they know that. So when someone like Kirstie Alley or Danny, or whatever these things come along, they know they can't really fix that. So they just got to cover it up and lie and pretend and hope that nobody finds out. And it works, unfortunately, too often.
But like, there's not that many people who could be in that position to like where they know that they're lying. Like they know they're full of shit. You know?
Well, that gives my stomach hurt. That makes my stomach hurt because that's a scary thing. The difference between people who know they're lying and people who really believe in the bullshit.
Yeah.
Like the MAGA people, like they really believe in it.
Yeah.
They really believe in the stuff they believe. And they're not just playing politics the way that the rest of the politicians are. That's a scary thing, I think,
I mean, I know the majority of Sea Org members believe that they're telling the truth and they think they're doing the right thing. There's no doubt about that. It's just like that handful of people who are keeping everybody else in the dark.
Well, what do you do?
What do you do?
No, I mean, like, even if you know the truth and you know what's going on, like, that's part of the problem is you're so entrenched in that world. There's nowhere to go. And even if there is somewhere to go, you've been convinced there isn't anywhere to go.
Well, and you've already like lost all of your family because you had to disconnect because they were SPs or PTS or whatever.
Yeah, and certainly the line that that sold me was that without them, you can never achieve, you can never do anything. If you leave Scientology, you're just going to be a total utter failure. So that's a hard one. I can understand.
That's a hard one to get over. I mean, that one is a big deal. Yeah. Like that's some shit I talk about in therapy because they've projected so much onto us that's not us.
And you think about like parenting, like good parents are always trying to instill confidence in their children, belief in yourself. You can do anything you want. And it was the opposite with that, we had the opposite of that.
Well, my mom always was like that, but she just said you have to postulate hard enough. And so my heart just kept breaking because I would try to postulate everything into existence and it wouldn't work. And I would think I was flawed.
Exactly. So the responsibility is all on you, no matter what. You could be held at gunpoint and still you're responsible for your own condition.
Why were you in the situation where you were meeting David Miscavige? What were you up to?
At Shaw. He was friends with Stephen Price.
So you worked at Shaw?
For a long time, yeah.
I forgot that.
Yeah.
That was my doctor's.
Yeah, it was everybody's.
That was everybody's.
Dr. Denk was my childhood doctor, was my adult doctor, he was my doctor until he died.
Yeah, he was L. Ron Hubbard's doctor.
Yes, he was. And with Dr. Shields was fun, sort of. Megan was kind of crazy. Megan was a scary one. People didn't like her. You just kind of, I mean, her patients loved her.
Her son is homeless in Los Angeles. I mean,
all her children.
One of my close friends.
One of her kids killed herself. One of her kids killed herself when I was still working.
Two of them. Well, one of them was, I believe, possibly murdered or possibly drug overdose. But that was the older boy. And then she hung herself. Yeah. Yeah,
the young girl hanged herself. And then there was a girl who was just so nice and so just absolutely like obedient as hell to the extent like so helpful. You were like, okay, kid, go play for a little while. I don't remember her name. I remember Louise's name, but and I don't know the boy. I don't remember the boy, but yeah, she had a bunch of kids. They're all adopted, I think. But I don't remember.
That was a crazy thing. And then when her daughter passed away, then she also went back to the same surrogate, and they tried to get the daughter's Satan in the body, and they believe that their new child is her. Yeah. It's sad. It's really sad.
It's a weird feeling to like cringe and laugh at the same time. I didn't know that.
Imagine being a child born to people who they already have expectations that you're somebody else.
I don't have to imagine. I don't have to imagine. I mean, that's okay. I'm sorry. I don't have to imagine.
Danny and I were talking right before this, and I was like asking about what he did in Scientology, and he brought up the good point that he always thought it was a scam. Like he never was really
I resisted a lot of the business, as I do in terms of religion in general, the dog and pony, the pomp and circumstance stuff. I was a true believer in the theology and the idea of it, what I believe to be true, and what I believe is sort of the teaching, if you want to call it that, as Scientology, which is a spiritual message, and I certainly believe in that. But I didn't do a lot of training because I just thought it was silly. I thought it was condescending. I felt like most of the courses I took were very condescending and there's always this thing, like I grew up doing this for real all the time. My mother was constantly training me as a Scientologist.
Yeah.
So like when then you go into a course room and they're like, let me teach you what A is. And it's like, oh, fuck you. You're like, I know what that is. And somebody described it as like you've taken pictures all your life, but there's a different experience between winging it and like learning the technicality of it. And I said, yeah, that's fine. But the answer is, yeah, that's fine. But you don't start by going, this is the shutter. Like, okay, if I've been taking pictures all my life, obviously I know some basics. Can we get that? Can we know that? Can we agree with that? And beyond that, when I was a child, when it was presumed by people I talked to often that I was a reincarnated Scientologist, you remember, I carried on many conversations with people that seemed to be evidence that I knew things that I brought with me or shouldn't have known. Or I was just really smart and absorbing like crazy.
From the last lifetime.
Right.
Brought with you. Yeah.
That was the presumption. Or I was just really smart and absorbing like crazy everything around me. I listened to those tapes a lot. I like the tapes. I like listening to him.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
His cadence is so
weird.
Upsetting to me. Like it's just so But I had to listen to those every week. We would drive back and forth to San Diego, and it was the tapes nonstop. And it was
pushed
like
on you. That's the difference. These were tapes that were left behind by people that used to pass through. My mother used to people would stay at our place and stuff, and so there was always stuff left behind. And so it was always there was a lot of tapes, but we never had a full set. There was always one or two missing. And nobody told me to listen to them. I just listened to them because I wanted to. I was starting to listen to stand-up comedy on tape. And so it just seemed to be somehow associated. And there was something else I wanted to say about that, but I forgot what it was. Oh, now Brother Jim does an L. Ron Hubbard impression that creeps me out so hard, that chills you to the bone. It is
really
now it creeps me out. But then he was a father figure to me, and I had no father. So you grab at whatever you can.
Where was your dad? I never met your dad. Never heard about him.
Oh,
in the Sea Org. I forgot. He was right across the street.
My father ran away from home when he was young and joined the Sea Org when he was a teenager. Went off on those boats with everybody in the beginning when he first took off the free wins. And I don't know exactly how all that went because nobody ever told me. Nobody ever wanted to tell me their stories. He didn't anyway. And I never saw him very much anyway. And whenever we did talk, it was always just like super awkward. And yeah, he was right across the street for a big chunk of that time. He worked he worked in their accounting office for a while. And then for a long time, he was the manager of the hotel. He was the manager of the hotel, the Manor Hotel, while my mother was the manager of the Shangri-La across the street.
So he was the manager at the Manor
Hotel. Of the hotel, yeah, of the hotel part of the building.
So back in the day, we used to be allowed to rent rooms. Like as kids, we would have sleepover parties in a room, and it was like we would stay up late and watch scary movies and order room service. But it was so like bizarre because it was our cult too, and we like, you know, had to behave and all that kind of stuff. They don't do that anymore. They don't rent rooms to the public or anybody other than people who are there to do services, I'm sure.
Yeah, the closer a thing gets into spiral, the more, you know, fanatic, clingy they'll get. They're not gonna. They don't want. They don't want. You know, they don't want you to watch a movie. They don't want you to read a book. They don't want you to like see what else is going on in the world. They don't want you to like know too much about it. You know that.
That's why they've tried to get everybody. Everybody's gone to Clearwater lately. Like,
right. That's safer for them, for the institution, to keep everybody on that land base so that nobody really has to participate in the real world. And even the regular people who live around there, they're all kind of living in Scientologyville and they know it.
Yeah.
You know, so you got everybody's like, you know, minds their P's and Q's as well. Yeah, and that's what, you know, that's what the evangelicals want. That's what the fucking Soviets wanted. That's why why it was an Iron Curtain. Keep the people ignorant, and then you can tell them whatever you want, convince them whatever you want, and yay, and then everybody, you know, whatever. I don't know, controlling.
When
bodies.
I learned about
where is that on the Trump scale?
It's very high. When I learned about World War II and the use of propaganda and all of these things, my jaw dropped because I was like, this is what I've been learning my whole life. Like, how has nobody stopped this?
It's eerie when you learn that and how you go, oh, I recognize that so much more than I think normal people would, because we grew up being fed the same sort of narrative. And I remember going to the Simon Wiesenthal Museum in LA is amazing. You should go there tomorrow.
I've never been.
But it's there. And in DC, we saw an exhibit that was specifically about propaganda, the Nazi propaganda. And you see how, you know, very specifically kind of spells it out. Like, here's the thing, and it said this, and then they added that, and then they lied about this, and then they made a big fucking, you know, they built a monster out of nothing, right? So like,
well, and they also had the Stasi, which was telling, I mean, had husbands and wives telling on each other as well, just like we had, you know.
Oh, like and the kids in the brown shirts.
Yeah,
there's a thing in 1984.
No,
there's a little kid who's part of like a snitch group, and he's his mother. He goes over to fix the mother's sink or something because the husband has just been ghosted. He's just vanished, as it happens in the story. And there's a kid there, and I remember reading that and thinking, that's us. That's who we are. We're that snitchy little kid who's wrong, you know, but he has no idea he's wrong. All he knows is the nobility he's been sold of this institution that's taught him that anyone against the institution is an evil piece of shit that needs to be called out. Whoa, and that was life in the fast lane.
I had a dream last night about one of my friends who's been in the Sea Org for like 15 years, and he's still there. And I'm just shocked that so many people are still in the Sea Org. Like, we've lived lives, like we have experiences, and these people are just working for the church nonstop, and this is their whole existence. It's so sad. Or
even people who have left who did that for 20 years, like they're still stuck in a mode sometimes. I always feel like I'm talking to a reg anytime I'm talking to somebody who's been on staff for a long time.
Totally.
They get stuck in that.
Well, and so people know what that feels like. It feels horrible talking to a reg. Like it feels like a used car salesman
or a mobster
on crack. Yeah.
Or a mobster. It's a lot of like, nice shop you got here, but too bad if something happened to it. And you know, it's all very
oh my God, you're so right.
It's all very roundabout. Nobody ever just says straightforward what they mean. It's always this a big long walk around the block to get there. And that's what, and yes, the pressure of a used car salesman coupled with this sort of big, long bullshit narrative to get your head twisted around to go, yeah, take my money, please.
Totally. Did you get recruited for the Sea Org a lot or no?
Oh yeah, I signed the stupid contract and everything. I think Nora might know more about that than I even do.
Why?
I think she was in on it. She was one of the, I don't know exactly because I don't remember and I don't know who was who and I never did. But it was a bunch of young girls and they had me cornered in an office and somebody actually held the pen, signed the contract. And it's like, this is what I mean by true believerism. Like anybody outside of this looks at that billion-year contract and what the fuck is that? But to me, that was real. That was serious business. And I felt like I was being coerced. I felt like I was being forced to do this. And all under this sort of conversation of what else are you going to do with your life? Stupid. You have nothing else to do with your life. Stupid. You have no
You want to have
purpose.
Kids in this world?
Right.
Stupid.
Right. And it's like, okay, well, what else am I going to do but sit here and cry like a baby? And then now you have to, whatever. It was a big torment.
Yeah. No, you used to want to be an actor, and I used to have your headshot up on my wall.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Vanessa.
I thought you were so cool.
That was was that the composite shot? There was 4 different shots, or was it one headshot?
It was the one with the long, beautiful curly hair.
Because there's also a composite shot out there that is downright embarrassing, which was like a thing you do for like commercial casting, where you like in costume. Like I could be I
feel like I actually still have your headshot in my childhood memories. So one day I'm gonna dig it out.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere, right? Stuff
totally, dude. Danny was hot, you guys. Like, I mean, still.
And obviously, you really want to embarrass me? You look up the episode of Wonder Years. It's out there. You can find it. That's some embarrassing shit. And
you were in Wonder Years?
I was in an episode of Wonder Years. No, I was 16, I think. No beard, and fat as fuck.
That's so fun.
It's funny. It's an episode. Kevin joins the soccer team. He joins a soccer team, a football team, or whatever soccer team, because he can't join the football team because he's too small. So he ends up on the soccer team, and the soccer team is all a bunch of nerds. And we're the nerds on the soccer team. And it's all pretty sad and lame. Yeah, I had a little stint with that. I did a lot of extra stuff. I did a lot of background work. I was in a lot of commercials.
Do you remember when they filmed Mighty Ducks 2, like outside of the Shangri-La and everybody got to be extras?
No, I wasn't there for that. I was there when they shot Throw Mama from the Train with Danny DeVito and Billy Crystal. In the building on the corner.
Never even heard of that
across
movie.
The street. The building on the corner across the street that had that outside walkways, balconies on the outside. There was a whole big sequence where they're running back and forth on those balconies, on those walkways. And it's a silly movie from the whatever early 90s or something. Billy Crystal, Danny DeVito. I never saw the Mighty Ducks movies. But yeah.
Yeah, my cousin was like walking by with a surfboard and like got to be in it.
That was the magical thinking. I would walk by movie sets all the time, imagining somebody go, "You weirdo, you'd be perfect for my movie, The Weirdo." Like that's not how it works, right?
Wait, it's not? I thought it was.
No. You can't just will it into being. But what makes that conversation even more convoluted is convoluted. It's not a word. Convoluted is the Opie and Anthony thing. Like that is just something that just happened miraculously out of nowhere. That does seem
totally.
Whoa, magic, right?
No, it is. There's something in the air with some of my friends. There has been, I guess it's just circumstance or how we were raised, but so many of my friends have been pushed into the spotlight, been so successful, been famous, things like that you're just like, how is this possible that from such a small cohort of people and you with your incredible success, I mean, how the fuck did that happen? Like, that was, I mean, I know it kind of sucks because they stole all the royalties and you didn't really get anything from it.
But, they just own it because that's how it works.
That's go on their video.
Their platform, that's their video. But what sucks is how I haven't been able to make as much out of that as everybody assumes I should have been able to by now.
Yeah.
because I did do a couple of records with some guys, and they did kind of take off with whatever. I don't even know how to get in touch with one of those guys. Took off to Japan, as far as last I heard. So we don't even know where he is. And I don't know if there's any money any money that's been made that's owed me. I have no idea. If people buy my music on iTunes, I'm not seeing any of that.
If nobody knows what we're talking about, Danny did the most incredible cover of "Creep" along with some other songs. YouTube. There you go.
I did. Yeah, I was okay. Real quick. One night I was arrested for drunk and disorderly. I was taken down to the 6th precinct. I was homeless at the time, living in Washington Square Park, literally trying to drink myself to death, like Nicolas Cage in that movie, although not as intense.
Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, but nobody does anything as intense as Nicolas Cage does in a movie. So, but it was like that, literally trying to drink myself to death as he was in that film. And one night I got arrested for drunk and disorderly, taken down to 6th Avenue, the 6th precinct, where they had gotten to know me very well. And they took me off into a little office rather than the holding cell, which was a little frightening because at the time there was a story in the news about police officers shoving plungers up people's asses. So why are we going in the office? I don't know. But to meet Keith the cop, who is a detective who knows Opie and Anthony of Sirius XM satellite radio. And the next morning he took me up there to mostly make fun was the idea, make fun of some homeless people. They had a bit that they were going to do. And I mentioned in the conversation that I play music. They brought me a guitar. I played 4 songs that morning, 3 of my own, and the cover of Creep. And the thing that's kind of miraculous about Creep also is that for 2 years previous, I had performed a very particular set of pop songs, popular songs that everybody knows, that I played in the park. And for whatever reason that morning, I could not think of a single one of those songs. And all I could come up with was Creep, which was not a song that I had ever performed live. It was just that CE change is a thing that you stumble across it yourself one day and you go, hey, that's interesting. Oh, it's Creep by Radiohead. So people recognize that change. Anyway, the point is, I remembered I'd play. It's a very simple song. It's 4 chords. God love you. And, it was just a song I knew well enough. It's not even a song I practiced.
That's what it was, though. You can feel it in your bones, and people were moved by this performance to the point where it has over 1 million views, right?
I went
it's
viral
ridiculously.
That meant.
Yeah, you really did, and it's incredible. You can definitely tell.
12 years ago or something, right? And so on the back of that, I met some guys and we were going to make a record. And then those guys took off to North Carolina. And the guy that was kind of left to take his job at there was a nightclub, restaurant place where the guy worked. And then the guy that took his job over, that he just became this sort of guy who was going to do the thing the other guy promised to do, which was fine. That's just it. I'm all like, okay, go with the water, man. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
So I just went along with it. This sort of changing hands. And then there was another guy, and those guys went to music producer school. They know how to do this shit. Right. And we made 2 EPs together, and into varying, results. And then I just didn't really know what else to do. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And I did some shows and nobody showed up because too much of my fan base is not local. All right. I bet you I do really well in Russia. I have a lot of fans in Russia.
Really?
For whatever reason I do. Which is not which is an oddly politically charged thing to say now. It wasn't at the time.
That's wild. I wonder how they found our little homeless mustard.
That's the power of the internet. It's everywhere all the time, What was this thing?
The amount of people out here who are supportive of us is freaking incredible, to be honest. I never expected that. And
it wouldn't exist without the silly contraption that I hate so much.
What? The computer?
The computer. The computer.
The computer.
No. There was this thing recently, I think it was Elon Musk had set up some village, where they had just it didn't have technology. You set up the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and they dropped off all the links. Yeah,
it's like, oh, Oh,
like humans. It was ruining a whole tribe of people because everybody's now addicted to porn.
It's like gentrification. It's like, oh, here's a weird thing we like because it's unusual. So let's go in there and change it and fuck it up and break it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's horrible. It's silly. We can't leave well enough alone. You know? Haven't we learned? Haven't we learned all our fucking meddling in the name of what? Progress? And especially because progress just means money to most people.
Ain't that the truth? I'll tell you, it was very confusing to come out of Scientology.
Who is Cappuccino?
I don't know. They're saying, I guess you can't see it.
Well, now I can see it, Cappuccino.
It was very confusing coming out of the cult when Donald Trump was running for president.
Because he's a cult leader.
He's essentially L. Ron Hubbard of politics.
You know, I wish I could make that point to people who follow him. Not the political point, I don't care. Not the cultural point, I don't care. He is a cult leader. For real.
Yeah.
Like, actually.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You're in a cult and you don't know it. And I just want you to know that before you vote, that you are in a cult. And he should not have immunity.
Oh my gosh.
We're not supposed to talk about that. We're not supposed to talk about politics, but it's ridiculous to think the president has immunity to break the law. The whole point of our system is that it's full of stopgaps to stop people from making rash decisions. We want the president to go, wait a minute, should I actually do this? We don't want the president to go, hey, I don't have to think about it. Yeah, I got immunity. We don't want that guy. I don't want that guy. That guy's a dictator. I don't want that guy. I want the guy that is forced, even against his will, to stop, take a breath, think about it. I want that. That's the system I fought for. That's the system I voted for. That's the system I thought we were living in, but it's not anymore. So go fuck yourself.
Someone said he looks like Lafayette's relative.
I know. It pisses me off. I think about that picture of him when he's sitting on the bed with all the little camera bits. There's like a camera lens. There's little boxes. When cameras used to come in all these little pieces and you had to put them together. Every time I see that picture, I think it's a family photo. You know, it's so hard not to relate to that guy. And, I fucked up, I'm a broken motherfucker. This is all, progress. This is all up statistic right here. As broken as I still am.
I think you're doing great right now, to be honest. You're operating a computer.
Barely. I needed help from you and somebody else. There's somebody else out here trying to help me earlier. I needed help just to figure out how to plug the stupid thing in because the cable didn't want to work at first.
I love your hat.
Me too. This is the best hat. It's my hat.
It's really good.
It's a little. I got hit by a car one day in Manhattan. Little man. He gave me $50 to make me go away.
Oh my God.
It's a long story, but my hat got lost in the process, and so I wandered into some place and bought a $2 hat out of a bin. And I crushed it and washed it and broke it and put a flower on it. And now it's groovy as shit.
Are you serious? I love it.
$2. $2
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
And I love him.
For those who don't know, Danny and my mother's moms used to be best friends and were best friends.
As well
Hollywood.
As you can be friends in Scientology and Los Angeles, for that matter. It's not. There's not a lot of true friends.
They were both really into being Scientologists. Though,
yeah, they were both true
so they
believers,
could bond
very
over
serious.
that.
They were Karens in their own right, and rule guards. Those kind of people are like, "Oh, you're not doing that right." Other practices, shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Other practices is when you do anything other than Scientology. They call it other practices.
We call it a psychic.
God forbid.
Oh my goodness. I got in so much trouble.
You did. I talked to the Scientology psychic, the Scientology pet communicator.
There's a Scientology. I'm a Scientology pet communicator.
You are?
There's a lot. There's a whole nother story about the dog. And I think I've told this story. I forget what stories I've told. Anyway, who is the Scientology pet communicator?
Her name was Marlo, and she was kind of on the low. Like, it was only through, if you knew certain people, you could get her number, because it wasn't officially sanctioned by the church or anything like that. But she definitely, when my animals passed away, I would call her and she would describe to me like, okay, I'm in contact with your dog's Thetan, which is like the spirit. And this is the story she told me. Your dog now is being born to a Scientology family because she wants to be a Scientologist like her mom. I shit you not.
Oh, God, yeah, I remember this. This was all the time, every time. It's like, no, I remember people doing this all the time when somebody died. And what's weird to me about it is somewhere in there, I thought the point was to get out. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if we're talking about what we're talking about here for real, the whole point of getting out and going clear was so that you realized you didn't have to come back, because Earth is a prison and you can actually go elsewhere, and it would be more pleasant for you as a Thetan, as a spiritual being. That would be a preferred mode of beingness. But no, then
that's why people race up the bridge.
But then they became obsessed with this idea that everybody was just going to reincarnate as Scientologists, and that was somehow the new goal or something. I don't know. I never really understood it, because it was a lie.
It became like, you have to do all these OT levels now, and then you can leave or whatever. You're going to have to keep coming back lifetime after lifetime on the prison planet, which is super cool thing to teach kids, that this Earth is a prison planet, and just like, might as well just, off yourself, because who cares? You'll just come right back.
But even that, I remember as an 8-year-old, like the concept of suicide being, oh, well, I'll just come back anyway. Maybe it'll just be better next time, and I won't have to deal with this crazy person. You know what I mean? Like, that was the conversation I was having with myself at 8. That's not good. That's not healthy.
Yeah, me too. No, that's so not okay.
A Twilight Zone so not
cool.
About how people really knew for sure that they were going to reincarnate, that people would stop fighting, would stop trying, would stop giving a shit, because they, well, I'll just come back next time. What does it matter?
I just thought I got so unlucky this lifetime, like, might as well just drop the body, like, just
right. And that is a sort of heartlessness too, in that thinking that we're also trained in, that we're also taught to be like, again, another one of those cognitive disorders that other people try to get away from, and Scientologists and still
embrace.
It's just sort of
so did she charge you for these readings? Yes, I was definitely charged for these readings. This was the woman's career. And then boutique auditing for pets is epic. Does Scientology have an official position on Thetans and animal souls? I was always asking about this because I'm a huge animal lover, and I was taught that there's a spectrum of what they call theta, and theta is life energy. So even plants have theta, and that
L. Ron
dogs
Hubbard
were just somewhere between
tomatoes.
there. Yeah, he did.
Not for nothing. I remember, as I was told, it was something like, not necessarily, but not necessarily not. Like an animal can have, like a Thetan can attach himself to an animal, but that's not necessarily always the case. And that felt like a sort of like, your dog is special kind of thing to say. Like, your dog is a Thetan. Not all dogs, but your dog is clearly,
totally. Yeah. Kind of, it's very special. As if a lifetime is a roll of the dice. Yeah, exactly. Literally. We'll see how it goes next time.
And then
pick a rich family next time.
Even that, there's a judgment in that. If you're born into like the caste system, if you're born into a lower caste system, people in the higher up can look down on you like, well, you chose that, you picked that, or you fucked up, or you didn't know better, whatever it is. And I feel like there's an argument to that. Like, the more kind of, whether it be enlightened or whatever it is, the more clear-minded you are when you die, maybe you do have more choices. Maybe you can think, oh, maybe I'm going to pick something. But if you die being stabbed in the throat, or if you die, experience trauma or fear, or if you die really terrified, then you're not going to be able to have those thoughts if they are there to be had at all.
Yeah. We were also, I was taught that I was already really doing a great job in life because I was born to a Scientology family. Yeah,
you already made such a wise choice to begin with.
Yeah.
And according to my mother, it was a command. According to my mother, I came to her as a disembodied spirit before I was born and instructed her to have.
Oh, you instructed her?
Yeah, it was like not exactly an order, but like, you have to do this because I need to be born now. And she was like, dutifully. And this was her morbid way of justifying the lie that she betrayed on my father, which was not to have any more kids. She had 3 kids. He had 2 kids. neither of them, when they entered into that relationship, is, you know, as far as he was concerned, he didn't want to have any more kids. And she decided she wanted to have a kid. Wow. And so she justified that by, well, he told me to. It was his fault. It was his fault. That's
insane.
I was born guilty, for real. For real.
You really were.
Yeah. And
that's absolutely wild.
And people
I just came along and nicely introduced myself. I was like, hey,
right. That's usually the story they tell. That's the story. And I remember your mother actually telling you the story now that
yeah, there we go.
I've definitely heard your mother. And that's the more common story, is about some very friendly encounter with some friendly ex-Scientologist or dead Scientologist. And it's like, oh, okay, you want to come on in? Come on in. My mother's story was a little more severe. It was a little
and like I guess they were assuming that we were all Scientologists from the 60s or 70s. Like, and how many were there at that point?
To this idea that the Scientologists had been around since the dawn of time. It just took L. Ron Hubbard to put a name to it or something.
Since the Marcab Society.
The Marcab? I don't know what that is.
That's what he said was the oldest force on Earth. And it's very science fiction-y, but that a lot of our engrams come from fighting this Marcab Society.
Right. And there was, some intergalactic war, and we're all full of implants. And we're all, you know, it's like Blade Runner. We're all like those replicants that have made up childhood memories that aren't really ours.
Yeah. It's totally normal.
And we're all mocking it up ourselves. It's all your fault.
Did you how was your mom with your sexuality and stuff?
In denial? My mother was a massive homophobe. Butt fuckers. Dirty butt fuckers. That was her dialogue. Dirty fucking butt fuckers. She was very angry. I think somebody tried to fuck her up the butt once, and she was just mad about that for the rest of her life. I have no idea. But it was definitely about the butt fucking. She was obsessed. She hated homos. Dude. Your mother too. I've heard your mother say some of the most foul.
My mom is so anti-gay,
and it was just so. Even worse than the "I hate faggots." It was the oh, he's so broken, so messed up, so distraught.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna pretend to have sympathy. That was the worst. So, you know, it's still an uphill battle we're fighting to this day, you know, like these people want to, like, whatever, we just had Pride, but like there were a lot of people pushing back on Pride in a way that we haven't heard in a while. We hadn't seen that as much in a while. And even a Supreme Court justice's wife is counted as one of our enemies now. And that's a really fucked up thing when all, you know, the gay agenda is leave us the fuck alone.
Yeah.
We're not trying to recruit you. We're just trying to gain acceptance in society that's told us to sit down, shut up, and just not exist for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we've always existed. There's a thing people don't get. You know, trans people aren't just coming out of the woodwork. Trans people have been here all along. We've been here the whole time. We just weren't telling you about it, dumbass. It's insane to me. When someone like Bill Maher says, where are all coming from? They just weren't telling you about it, Bill. You know, there was a big movement in the 90s about visibility. It was all about visibility. And there was a lot of homophobia getting thrown at queers over the AIDS, over HIV. And there was a big movement towards coming out because we needed to educate Americans on how many queer people they already knew. That we were not other. We were not the other. We weren't a stranger. We're your brother. We're your sons. We're your cousins. We're your neighbors. We're sometimes your best fucking friend. But we don't want to tell you about it because you're scary and you're homophobic.
Yeah.
In some way. You know, that's the truth. You know, it's not, nothing's changed. So, you know.
Well, and Scientologists definitely thought there was a gay agenda, and like that's straight from the source, you know, like Ron.
And there's another thing I've mentioned this before. It pisses me off that Scientology speaks to me on a spiritual level and says you're a Thetan and not your body, and then gives that much shit about my body. Go fuck yourself. I'm in the wrong body. Not my fault. Or, you know, at the end of this journey, for me, it's not about either. It's about feeling like a kinship or a connection to both. and not feeling like I or anyone really needs to delineate that. It's not really that delineated. And especially when you're speaking on a spiritual plane, that means nothing. You know, is it nurture or is it, you know, are you going to be a protector or a feeder? You know, like there's different modes that we all take in the stereotypes of masculinity and femininity, but anyone can be any of those things. You know, you can be a fighter, or you can be a nurturer, or you can be a homemaker, or you can be a builder, or you can be a digger, whatever it is. You can be any of those things. They're not definitely gender assigned.
Yeah, for sure.
But then again, even this conversation, I'm sorry, just real quick, because this conversation has already gotten twisted in the bigger narrative, because people think that the want for acceptance is an insistence that everybody else follow along or do the same thing. But I don't think we're doing that. I think that's what conservatives do. I think that's what religious people do. Religious people are always insisting that other people follow along with their thing. So now they think when other people have a thing, we're also insisting that you have to follow along too. You have to be queer too, motherfucker. But we're not saying that. Nobody ever said that. That's their projection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Just like as Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, I'm asking for no apologies for my race, my gender, my sex. Just that you get your fucking foot off my fucking neck. Yeah,
totally.
I mean, paraphrasing Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Who the fuck am I right now?
The amount of queer people I grew up with is astronomical.
Well, that's something
they were not allowed to be that. Right. And it's really, really sad and really mean.
That's something that's become, I think, painfully clear about a lot of Sea Org people, is a lot of that is queer people who are hiding. I think that's what my mother was doing. You know, Nora's talked about this, that there's a lot of queer people in there. And that's what queer people do. You know, queer people historically have hid in institutions of religion, like priests and nuns historically are often the queer people. That's where they go to hide from the rest of the world. And that's
the ironic part, because those are the people who are the loudest screaming out, like...
Well, of course, you're only as sick as your secrets, and the people with the biggest secrets are going to scream the loudest, especially those of us who aren't keeping the same secret. You know, that's the choice we make, is to tell the truth, not to keep the secret, because the secret's going to kill you, and you're going to take others down with you in the process.
Well, and just how sad is it that, like, I know people who joined Scientology because they wanted to fix it, right? Like, they were really
like Lisa Marie. That's what she said about Michael Jackson. That she married Michael Jackson because she thought she could fix him. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's true. I mean,
Scientologists do. They think they can fix it. They think I still do. I still try to fix people all the fucking time.
Yeah.
I still think I can fix everybody. Not me, but everybody else.
Well, and to think that their sexuality is the thing that they're trying to fix. That's what's fucked up. I mean, it's really super fucked up. Like, it's not how you treat human beings.
And it's tough. I think, you know, there are those who are, you know, queer people who are treated like just criminals for being queer or deviants for being queer. And there's something even worse, I think, about the Scientology sort of like, but it's okay, we can fix it. It's this repairable damage thing. Like, that just makes it even worse, I think. And that's when you asked how my mother. So when I did actually try to come out to her once, I was still in high school. And it was this whole painful, like sitting on the side of her bed for like an hour before I could even get the words out. But I had this in my head, this idea that it was important to me to tell her. And she, I'm there and she's getting very impatient. She had no patience for me, you know. What do you want? Spit it out already. And I was like, hey, I think I'm gay. And she stops and she put whatever she was doing, her notebook down or whatever, her TV guide. And she patted me on the shoulder. And for a millisecond, I thought she was going to be nice. For just a millisecond. And she went, it's okay, sweetie. We can fix that. We can fix that. We can fix it. She says. All condescending. Don't worry, we'll fix it. Everything can be fixed in auditing. And there's a lot of that in the parenting. Oh, fell down a hill. Don't worry, we'll fix that in auditing. You know, like horrible, massive emotional scars. She said that? Don't worry, we'll fix that in auditing. I was just deflated. You know, I barely had the strength to say the words. You know, to have any more conversation beyond that was beyond me. I did not know what to say to that. You know, I just went away. I just, as I did spend most of my youth, I went somewhere alone to cry because there was no one you're allowed to cry to, because that's HENR and that's not allowed. Go fuck yourself. Fuck you. You know, I'm so fucking pissed at these people. You have no idea. Every time I talk about it, I think of some horrible indignity, some horrible, stupid ass backwards, the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do in that situation. You know, and like my cousin, when he came out to his father, my mother's brother, and he had the standard, like, old school, get out of my house. And he kicked him out of the house, and he was out of the house for 2 years. They eventually reconciled. But I think there was something so much worse about continuing to live with my captain. Continuing to live with my, sleeping with the enemy kind of situation.
Did it not come up again after that for a while, or?
Are you kidding me? Then I hooked up with Claire. Then I spent 7 years in a relationship with a woman called Claire.
Whoa.
You know, no, right then I very quickly hooked up with Angela Moore. I apologize, Angela. Please forgive me. And then Claire. So I apologize to Claire too, for that matter. You know, it's a fucked up thing to do.
Was she a Scientologist?
No, God bless. Okay. She worked though for Peter Gillum. Her and I both worked at Peter Gillum's. Wow. But that's not how we met. No, we met through we did meet through Scientology Connection. We met through actually the Beverly Hills Playhouse, which was the acting school established by Mel Gonzalez, who was a long time a Scientologist, friend of L. Ron Hubbard, and known pervert. You know, so he had a tendency to stick his fingers inside of patients, students rather, when he wasn't supposed to. God, it's so crass sometimes. I should shut the fuck up. Anyway.
That's cool.
No, he was just one of those guys that read like the guy that, when you found out he was that guy, you were like, well, of course he was that guy. Didn't you know he was that guy? I thought he was that guy the whole time. You know, fucking the only one that surprises us is Bill Cosby. But like, we're not surprised by Weinstein or any of these, you know, like or any of those Republicans that are caught with like a boy toy in a hotel somewhere.
Yeah.
You look at them, you're like, yeah, of course he was. That's the guy who's sticking his foot under the bathroom stall. Yeah, no shit. Anyway, he was just one of those guys. Anyway, so yeah, we met. Well, it's all about that, you know, sex. You know, we're so obsessed. I
think the whole Beverly Playhouse recruiting thing is still going on.
Sure it is. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
Yeah. I mean, they really do prey on the young people who come to LA as well with all those. Remember, they used to have them at the CC all the time and like acting workshop.
Well, it was like, right, because L. Ron Hubbard had talked about the using of celebrity to disseminate Scientology. And you know, for no other reason because he was in Los Angeles, but you know, he saw the power in that and he endorsed it and encouraged it. And there was a lot of it. There was a lot of recruiting celebrities and people that could lend their name to something, like Isaac Hayes and Chick Corea, people like that early on. I remember Mimi Rogers, right? And you know, Tom Cruise and John Travolta were very specifically targeted for this reason. They were absolutely what they were looking for. And I forget her name, but I knew her briefly. But the woman who worked for John Travolta for many, many years, who's probably the one person who even knows the worst about him, but defends him the most. I can't remember her name. She has a funny name, like Squeaky or something. And she talks about it, about how like he was
Spanky.
Specifically what?
Spanky.
Yes. Yeah. She had a funny name, right? Okay. I just don't. You know, she was a friend of Judy, and you know, my mother had this group of friends and I knew her briefly. She had just seen the movie, the horrible John Travolta movie, the L. Ron Hubbard movie. Was a Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth.
And that was when I met her, was the day that she'd seen the screening of that. And she came to join us at dinner on Vermont. And she was so deflated. She was so heartbroken over how bad it was. You have no idea. But she talks about that, about how they recruited him. That, you know, they targeted him. Like he was the guy that was gonna, you know, that golden boy that really Tom Cruise turned out to be. But Travolta was the guy. You know, he was so charismatic and so charming and booking stuff like crazy. And he then, of course, is convinced that Scientology is the reason he was doing so well. But he was doing so well because he was an incredibly good-looking, magnanimous, talented man in 1970, whatever it was, when the world was desperate for men like that on the screen. So Squeaky, there we go, the Holy Road.
I'm glad we have people in our chat. It's fun to see like people are shocked at this shit, as they should be, you know, like to us, we're like, oh yeah, it's totally normal. No, it's not totally fucking normal. It's horrible.
And that's a really hard thing. And the only thing I can, these moments when I relate to something that I shouldn't because of this, but it was a very old woman talking about when the wall came down, in Berlin, the fucking Iron Curtain came down, and she was transported to the West by her family in the West, and she's in tears talking about realizing how much she was lied to, how much she was convinced that the West was failing and starving, and that everything that was true in Eastern Europe, they claimed was happening in Western Europe, but really it was right. And I remember watching this thing, and she's talking, and she's weeping about it, right? And you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. Your whole world is oppositeville. Your whole world is the upside down. Your whole world is whatever. What was that Superman that was the opposite of Superman guy? I'm trying to remember his name. Doesn't matter. Your whole world is the opposite of what you thought it was.
Yeah, it's like Bizarro world.
Bizarro, that's the word. Thank you. That's what he was called. The other Superman, he was called Bizarro. Oh, it's funny.
I remember it from Seinfeld, where they had like a Bizarro Jerry, a Bizarro Elaine,
right? And that's a reference
like in an alter world. That's a
reference to the Superman. It's a reference to the Superman.
Yeah. Even Seinfeld dabbled in Scientology.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, Jerry Seinfeld did. He did. That's right. I wonder what he took away from it, or not.
It is a weird thing. I always try to picture like, what would I think of it if I wasn't me? Because it's really hard to.
I think it's funny
imagine.
Because sometimes there are a couple of comedians who make jokes about how like, it only seems so weird because it's so recent. Like we have video of L. Ron Hubbard. If we had video of Jesus or Muhammad or something, we might think differently of those people, but we don't. So it's all very old. It's very ancient. It's all very like romanticized and elevated. But we have video of L. Ron Hubbard stubbing his toe. So it's going to seem weirder than other religions because it's newer. But I don't know. I think it really is.
I've heard that argument.
I think it really is weirder. But I think all religion is weird. I think a lot of faith-based thinking is really weird. I think a lot of the religious stories are really weird. I think that there's a lot of complaints I have about religion in general. I think it's the worst thing going, to be honest. I think it's the most harmful thing in the world. And I think it was something that humanity needed at some point a long time ago. And we just didn't understand any fucking thing. But we just don't need it anymore, and it causes way more harm than it provides good. And I think
are you spiritual still?
Of course. I don't know how not to be. I don't even know what it means not to be. You know, like that's what I mean by true believerism. It's not that I believe. I don't have faith. I just am a spiritual being, and you are a spiritual being, and everybody I encounter, I speak to like that, and it's a thing that people notice, not for nothing. So. Yeah, I mean, like, just I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. In psychology classes, I remember writing this down, that the death of wonderment is really, really like not okay. It's really soul crushing when you stop having that ability. And I feel like
as you grow up, you grow up. When you're a child,
but also like finding out that everything was bullshit. It really can throw you into an atheism that
does everybody
can
think
be
that
dark
like,
too.
I feel like aren't there people in the world that are raised with a little more sanity and don't have to go through the horrible pain of realizing through their adolescence that everything they learned was a lie? I don't know. Is it always like that? But it's religion is I think it's adolescent. It's juvenile. It's meant to comfort children and young people, but you grow up and you learn better, and that's how it works. And then you can like relive your innocence through observing that in your children, that kind of thing. That's how it works, I think.
I think most people think that it's the difference between people who take the words of religion literally or take it as a story, and even with Scientology, at some point I realized, oh shit, this is a story, but my parents didn't.
Well, what I know is a lot of in the religion and the politics is the only reading half a sentence. The Second Amendment people, they only know the shall not be infringed part, but they ignore the well-regulated militia part. And there was one in particular that people used to throw at me, which was don't force others to experience things they cannot experience easily. And that used to get thrown at me a lot, as though it was my responsibility to tiptoe around other people's sensitivity. But the second half of that sentence is be willing to experience all things. Right? So like, nobody does it right. Everybody just goes, I'll just take the piece I like and use that in the way I want it to work. And religious people do this all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to Christian people who know less about the actual book than I do. And I'm not a Christian, but I can tell them things that's in that book they don't even know about, because they just know the 15 or 20, the handful of quotes they've been taught to know, and whatever the guy at the front of the room tells them to think. And the whole point of all the sacrifice that people made in the history of that religion to get it translated into a common language so anybody could read it is completely thrown out the window when people just continue to mindlessly follow the leader.
Were you, because I tend to romanticize other relationships other religions because I know that they do actually do some good things in the community. Like they actually help. When you were experiencing homelessness, do you feel like you got helped by any of those churches? Were there times when you needed help?
You know what's funny to me about it is you don't find that the religions are charitable, but the people are. There's individuals who are charitable and take it on themselves to do these things and to teach their children to do it too. That's an interesting thing too. And like super white bread, like suburban people come into the city and they've brought their 12-year-olds with them. And you're like, oh my God, to visit homeless people. You know, there is a lot of Christian compassion. Unfortunately, a lot of the Christian compassion comes with a little condescension, a little poor, you know, a little of that, a little too more than we need. A little bit, but you know, you're not that superior just because you're you know what I mean? But,
because you have a couple blankets more than I do tonight,
or often like the people who are sometimes people who do charitable work, it's like virtue signaling and like they're feeling good about themselves. But, you know, it's the wrong, you know, the motive for charity isn't supposed to be to make yourself feel good about it, but if that works, that works, I guess. The problem is it's not near enough, I guess. You know, there's political arguments about that charity should be able to take care of these things and we shouldn't have to have welfare and food stamps, but there isn't enough. And the religious institutions in this world are some of the wealthiest institutions on the planet. They have a whole lot more to give, and they could, you know, the Vatican alone could feed the world, but they're not. Or like when there was that hurricane in Texas, in the church, that, you know, there was some mega church, Joel Osteen's mega church, maybe it wasn't Texas, wherever it was, Louisiana, someplace, Joel Osteen's mega church. There was like this plea to let people come out of the rain and just hide out inside his building. And he was like, no, I'm not that Christian. So I don't know. What was the question? Did I experience some Christian charity?
No, I was wondering, like how you felt about that.
And it's not to say there isn't. And I've known some really lovely, beautiful Christian people. But again, like John Travolta wants to give all the credit to the cult. These are people who are beautiful and lovely and want to give credit for that. And maybe, and I get that there is teaching there that like guardrails and reminds people to stay hopeful, altruistic, you know, remember that we're all in this together. It's a brotherhood of man, you know, that kind of stuff. If you take those lessons, but American Christians don't seem to take those lessons. You know, I hear a lot more division and otherizing and shame and blame and that from Christians in this context of the world than I do anything else. But not to say that there isn't it's a spectrum like anything else. There are good, you know, there are good people who are Christian and there are shitheel people who are Christian. And I want to say differently from Scientology. I think Scientology, again, induces and encourages some of the worst human behavior. I don't think that religion does that, except that in its omittance of certain things. So the Christian religion does encourage homophobia, or at least doesn't tell it to stop. Even when the Pope is like, you know, it's not that big a deal. Still, people want to hate on you. You know, there is no thou shall not rape. There is no thou shall not force thine sex on a child. There is no thou shall not claim ownership of another human being. So those things seem real gaping holes in your moral code to me. I don't know if I want to rely on that, especially when there's the redundancy of it's only me. I'm the only God. Don't even look at the other gods. They're not even there. You know, there's a little bit of me thinks they do protest too much in the first three already. So, all right, if you say so. but it sounds like, there's lots of gods or whatever this is, whatever this.
I feel like a lot of why my dad still maintained a lot of compassion in his heart is because he was raised Christian and he was like a good Christian person before Scientology. And that did make an imprint on me. And had he not been raised in that, there would have been definite morals and things that wouldn't be that important for whatever reason. I know that he doesn't believe in heaven and hell and all those things, but there were things that he was taught as a boy and a Boy Scout and all of those kinds of things that actually stayed with him. Hallelujah. Or it would have been a much different relationship. Yeah.
He might just be one of those people that's better at taking the lessons that are positive and ignoring the ones that aren't. What pains me about so many people I see is they take the wrong lessons. People who are already too forceful will take the lesson that we give to shy people, that kind of thing. And the people who are shy will take the wrong, people take the wrong lessons sometimes. And there's something else I want to say about this sort of the Scientology Christianness. Well, that's what I wanted to say was there's this concept of freedom versus safety, or ignorance versus wisdom. So if you stay, I don't want to say childish or infant or naive, but there is a certain naivete to how they want Christians to think and behave, and not just in their childhood, but into their adulthood and throughout their lives. And that's fine if that's how you want to be. But really the argument here is, do you want to stay naive and sheltered, or do you want to know more and get into the messiness of reality? Right? Yeah. The real shit is messy, and there's lots of things tipping off balance and all this kind of stuff, and it's constantly moving. And the safe thing, and this is the lesson of the Garden of Eden. This is what Eve, this is why it's the tree of knowledge. Eve wanted to know more about what was really going on in the world. She wanted freedom from the shelter, the security of the garden, right? And we misunderstand that lesson, like the garden was perfection, just like the nursery is perfection. But you grow up and the nursery ain't so much fun anymore. You want to see what's outside. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's normal human progression. And
that's
girls,
what we did.
Yeah, right. And I think girls come to that sooner because of menstruation. But either way, all she wanted was to know shit. And that's the trade-off. The more you know, the more freedom you have. Yeah, the less secure it's going to be, the less safe it's going to be, the less simple it's going to be. Because the real is not simple. When people think too simply, you're not thinking about the real, for real.
Yeah. I mean, I really do at times wish I could have taken the red pill and stayed in that reality that so many people who I know and used to love are still living in. Like they're unbroken, if you will. They're in that bubble.
Yeah. And I wish I could believe, it's so comforting. It's so much safer. It's so much easier. Liz Ferris, somebody's asking about Liz.
Yeah, Liz Ferris started a really nasty rumor about me that stole from. Yeah, that I stole a Pokemon card from her or some shit, and it's bullshit. So that's the response I have.
What sucks about that is I always feel an overactive sense of responsibility. I always feel guilty even when I'm not. And so when people accuse me of things, I always feel so guilty even when I'm not. That sucks. I've talked to Liz.
I went out of my way to really, really, really help her. And I went over to her house when I wasn't doing so well mentally. I was really overwhelmed. Scientology was following me nonstop. And for whatever reason, the story she decided to have about that night and her acting weird was that I left with some of her belongings. And it's just not true. So I've been getting all this hate because she's telling stories, and I wish we could just focus on Scientology and bringing that down instead of drama between everybody who's a creator on YouTube, because that's stupid. That's how I feel.
Yeah, infighting is not good, and especially that because and again, we are anxious people. We've been trained to be paranoid and suspicious. I don't even blame her for wanting to blame you or accuse you of something. I have done stuff like that.
She had a hard background too.
Right. And or even just you know, like in a position where you're doing somebody a favor that maybe you don't want to do. Like maybe she didn't want you in her house and that was the only way her subconscious could figure out how to get you out. Something like that. People have done stuff like that to me because they don't know how to say straight up, can you leave now? You know, so they passive aggressively or, you know, other things, they do other things. I don't know. I'm not saying that's necessarily true, but I hope she's all right. I hope she's figured out where that card went.
I love this right here. Too.
Somebody wrote, the word religion comes from the Latin word meaning to bind. I didn't know that, but that's very interesting. Of course, Scientology, we're very into derivations.
Yeah, we are really into derivations. We were taught, like I used to carry around a derivation dictionary because I had to.
And we complain if you had a dictionary that didn't have derivations. What's wrong with you? Are you an ignorant pig? I'm
curious how you got so brilliant. Like, did you spend a lot of time at the library? Because I know that nobody taught you this shit in Scientology schools. Like, where did you learn things?
I think I just absorb things easily, honestly, because I'm not like super well read or educated. I dropped out of high school. I read the encyclopedia when I was like 12 or something. Somebody died, and we got a really nice set of like bound encyclopedias, old-fashioned encyclopedias. And I remember sitting down and reading it through, like that was just what you do. Not understanding it was a reference book, but just something to read. But I don't know, like, you know, I have that sort of, you know, what Jeannie Garofalo calls, I have a intellectual curiosity. I want to know about things, and I'm constantly searching because I have so many holes and so many gaps, so many gap-shaped gaps and hole-shaped holes. And I'm constantly searching for, something better than the bullshit I was raised in, being the culty thinking, being the parentless, the fatherlessness, and the abusive mother, the lack of any sort of care, the lack of boundaries, the lack of anything. Nobody's watching. Nobody was watching us. And we were all up to horrible things, and horrible things were being done to us all the time. And nobody knew, and nobody seemed to want to know. Nobody really wanted to know because everyone wanted to believe that their little Scientology thing was working and it was all just some beautiful thing. And you constantly were trying to sell the world. You constantly had to be like, see how OT I am, see how good I am, see how good I am. And I know some lapsed Catholics that relate to that. Like you feel like growing up in something like that, you feel like you're constantly trying to like, you know, prove it. Like, look, it's working, I swear.
I mean, that's a big thing that we had to carry around for a really, really long time. I mean, I carried it way too long. I think I didn't stop until my mid-20s, but just that, like, everything's great, totally cool.
Tom Cruise jumping up and down on Oprah Winfrey's couch. Look how exciting. No, you look mannequin crazy, but you don't know that because you're a Scientologist. So you're completely disconnected with what real emotions feel like.
Yeah.
This is the movie star who can't even tell you what his favorite movie is. There's something wrong with that. You know what I mean?
Is that true?
Yes. This is a thing he's been more than once asked about. And he pivots to...
This is also the man who was at a Taylor Swift concert on the day of his daughter's graduation from high school.
Why was he at a... Was she with him? That would only make sense if she was with him.
No, she was not. She was graduating without her dad. And he was with Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis at a Taylor Swift party, rocking out in a concert.
Why? What? I don't even.
Because he's a horrible father. He disconnected from his daughter. There's no lie about that. Like, the mom was.
Wait, this is the adopted children, the ones that he had with.
No, this is Katie Holmes' child.
Oh, Katie Holmes' kid. Oh yeah, he's totally dropped her. Yeah, he doesn't even. Oh yeah. Oh, I thought you meant the other kids. Oh yeah.
No, Surrey.
Oh, this is right. Recently, Surrey. Right, Surrey. I didn't realize Surrey was old enough. I'm honestly still thinking of Surrey as a toddler. Forgive me.
She looks just like
old.
I'm thinking of Surrey as a toddler too, but she's actually graduated high school.
That's killing me. I'm waiting for. Yeah, that's okay. So she's a grown person now. Good for her.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting.
It was all over the. It was literally on TMZ. And they didn't put the comparison together. They just put like Surrey graduated from high school today. And then like the next story was like Tom Cruise spotted at Taylor Swift concert rocking out.
And they weren't even trying to make the point of it. They were just.
No, they weren't even trying to make the point. And it's so gross. Like, what the actual hell, dude? What the actual hell? Like, you're a horrible dad.
Well, no, because Scientology died, and that's just a body, and it's not really important, and we'll see you again sometime. You know, that's part of the glibness of being a Scientology parent. It's super glib. Glib, glib, glib. Oh, they love that word, too. They love calling other people glib. Tom loves calling people glib. Tom, that's really glib what you're doing. You're being really glib right now. So whatever. He loves calling people glib. That's one of his favorite.
One of my favorite people are in the chat. Hi, Witness.
Witness.
I love that there's like people who I've actually gotten to know through YouTube, and it's really awesome. Like, this person is wonderful at documents and any kind of Scientology things, like has a whole YouTube channel about it. It's pretty sick. It's pretty sick how many people actually give a shit, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you, because it wasn't that long ago, nobody knew what the fuck you were talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
Not that long ago. You would say that and they thought you were talking about Christian Scientists, and they didn't know what you're talking about. So yeah, it is a big.
You're absolutely right.
Changed. A lot of that has to do with Alex Gibney's documentary. I think I noticed a real.
Yeah, and then I'm also like pretty disappointed when I meet people and they really don't know anything. Like, because it's there for you now, you know, like Leah's show is there. It's on Hulu or wherever it is. There's the documentary, and there's still people who think it's Christian Science.
No, what bothers me is the legal standing, the way that the courts treat it like it's untouchable because it's religion. That bothers me.
It's absolutely maddening.
Because you really don't know what it's about. But you should learn.
Yeah. Anyway. I mean, I don't tell people like in normal.
I didn't tell people for years, but now recently I've started to lead with it because people are always like, what is wrong with you? People always want to know, like, what happened to you? Because I'm so clever and so smart and I'm talented or whatever it is, but still so fucking broken. Now I start with, I was born in a cult. Forgive me. You know, I used to toy with the idea of telling people I've been in a coma for like 10 years or something. Like that would explain why I'm so weird or why I'm so still trying to make up for lost time, as it feels like. You know, still living through aspects of my adolescence at 45 like a retard. Excuse me, a retarded person. Anyway, okay. Anyway. So now I just leave with it. I was born in a cult, and you know what? Considering what I've been through, this is all progress. As dysfunctional and weird and ugly and whatever it is that you got.
I wait until people know me a little bit because it just puts you into this category of like weirdo.
I know, but people people put me in that category at the end of the block before I even get it. You know what I mean? I'm already in that category before I enter the room. So it's just easier for me now to just go, yep.
It feels like you're like a circus animal. Like they ask you all these weird questions like, and then it just seems, you know, like,
Steven,
I don't want that to be the most interesting thing about me, I guess.
The difference is that you're passable. You're passable as a normal person. I'm not. I have to answer for this in some form. Everywhere I go, people look at me like, what the fuck are you and why? And I go, well, you know, some shit happened. And it doesn't work. You know, can't just say traumatized and abused anymore. Everybody's been traumatized and abused, we now realize. So, all right, fine. I was in a coma. No, okay. I can't suss out the details. So, all right. So, and I'm not good at maintaining lies. So I'll just go with the truth. I was born in a cult. I was born in a cult for real. And no, I wasn't like systematically worked to death the way some of the cult members were. And I managed to escape that. But it is still a prison of belief. It is still a fucking head case. Fucking.
Do you find yourself still peeling anything off, or are you pretty much on the other side of things?
I sing about it a lot. I'll tell you, it's working. There's a lot more references to it in the songs these days. You know what I love is the John Atack's book is called A Piece of Blue Sky. That sells these people a piece of blue sky, which is supposedly what L. Ron Hubbard said to somebody as he was the launch of Dianetics. And the notion being, let's just sell them some bullshit, right? Something they could get themselves just by looking up. But if they don't know how to look up, look down into the book. So it's
worse than snake oil salesman.
Yeah, it is. No, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And there's a great line about it. When I look down, I miss all the good stuff. When I look up, I trip over things. Something like that. There's just a great line about that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the way, yeah, you read the book, don't look up. Anyway, so yeah, so stuff like that, like the idea of being swindled, the idea that I feel like I've really been robbed of something in a real sense. And what exactly, I don't know, but all that remains to be seen. One of the things you said in the past, which stuck to me, when constantly maligned, you become obsessed with the truth. It's changed me in terms of feeling validated. Yeah, when you're constantly being, manipulated, lied to, and it was constantly, it was that. It was just this constant manipulation. Nobody was like dealing with me as a person at all. It was just, maneuver him into position and.
From a mental health standpoint, like the more you don't feel feelings, the more sick you get. So we were just not allowed to ever have.
And we're not allowed to get sick either.
Yeah, we're not allowed to get sick, and we're also not allowed to have feelings that were not like good ones,
We don't think so, Jenny. We think that I think that Liz may have like made up a little, not made up, but like in her fear and anxiety may have believed something to be true that wasn't necessarily true. And I'm willing to bet that card is
I would not need to steal. I have belongings I could sell. Thank you.
I don't know. And then I don't really know what Pokemon cards are worth. Maybe they're worth so much more than I realize. I don't know. Is it some $1 million card?
I don't know. I think maybe she lost it and actually thinks that I took it. I think that's what happened.
I don't know. I don't know Liz well enough to speak to it. I really don't.
All I know is that Scientology really came for me with the PIs for a couple months there. And that's why I haven't been on YouTube so much. I'm happy to get back on here, but it really was really hard to get some privacy. And I don't even know what to do with these tapes I have of the PIs and stuff. Like, I don't even know. I film people filming me. I have all of this recorded and stuff. I don't even know what to do with it. Like, there's no place you just go file a grievance that Scientology is following you and making your life hell.
Well, and it's bizarre. Even though it's against the law to stalk and do that kind of stuff, it's hard to pinpoint, it's hard to prove. And of course, Scientology is really good at going, no, we're not. No, we didn't. Yeah. They're making it up. They're crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's. But then it comes out like they're literally people who were the girlfriends of these PIs or whatever. It's coming out 10 years later. Oh yeah, we were doing that. We were stealing their mail. We were going through their trash.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Especially, having been around as long as I've been, because you knew people who actually did the shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, we all know probably people who, like the FBI, like the IRS raid, for example. Like, that happened for real. Rattlesnakes in the mailbox, stuff like that. The stalking stuff, it happens for real. It's not, I don't know. Are there still people saying outside of the church who don't believe they do this? Like, I know the church is going to say they don't do this, but they do it.
Yeah, the church is going to say that they don't do it.
Obviously.
It's just...
And I know that the courts won't even touch it sometimes because it's a religious.
That's exactly right. There's nothing
the courts
to
don't even want to
do
look
about
at the legality
it.
of the behavior because it's in the context of you broke a religious agreement, presumably, and so therefore what? So I'm just a victim
and they
to whatever.
Transfer the money from person to person to person, so there's never the paper trail. Like it ends up coming to some dirty PI over Venmo to just go stalk this person and give them hell for a day or whatever, and it's really dark and not cool. And the only reason that I would think that they would maybe be so angry at me is, one, I was going to the protests. Two, I won't stop talking about mental health. And we know how mental health is viewed in the church. And I will not stop talking about it. I work in the mental health industry now, and that must be really upsetting to them that there's a second generation Scientologist who's in the field of mental health and who's going to be a licensed therapist. I mean, they're not happy about that. So I don't give a shit, though.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too, the peer counselor thing. I'm going to do that peer counselor thing. My therapist has been really pushing it, and I have the application here.
Isn't therapy great?
And I think I already peer counsel all the time, so it's probably something I should do for real.
Yeah.
And I'm certain it's in the songs. Yeah, thank you. I love this. Jenny, obviously it's an issue to be resolved, and it cannot be resolved now because Liz is not in the room. So
can we be present in the moment?
Let's be present in the moment. Oh. Like I said, I have been accused of so many things in my life, just erroneously. And I know that because I was raised Scientologist, I often feel guilty when I'm not. So
please don't let this person distract from Daniel and his wisdom sharing. I agree. Your wisdom sharing is awesome.
Not for nothing, but Liz's mental health is an accumulation of a lifetime. It's not over one event or one person.
Yeah. Yes, we've gotten a lot of positive comments. We won't focus on the
I think Jenny's being respectful, not for nothing. So I feel like responding to it. But all of this is questions unanswerable at this moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Pegs. Thank you, Peggy X, for keeping it on. Yeah. What are we talking about now?
I want to know a little bit about your tunes. Are you if anybody has questions, please put them in the chat. I want to hear about your music and are you making new music?
Oh, I wanted. Okay. I think I'm gonna actually do this. I don't want to, but I think I'm gonna do this because I wrote this song on Monday. While it's new, I kind of feel like I want to share it.
Please do.
But I'm nervous because I really just wrote it. It's new. Is it time to do this? Am I just breaking in?
Yep.
Can you hear the guitar? Mm-hmm. Because I'm not a great guitar player. Ooh, da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. It's the same old back and forth. Nobody wanna give you more than they take. And it's the same old sad metaphor. Consolation, rainbow fall, your pain. As ready as you've ever been, born to make mistakes, with complications lying still. Wait, as fevered as the only pitch you ever thought to make. Without evidence, resolve yourself to fate. It's the same old back and forth. Nobody given more than they take. It's the same old metaphor. A consolation rainbow for your pain. Consolation rainbow for your pain. Nobody won so much as crossed the finish line. Call me a fool for refusing to pick a side. 'Cause when the sun come back around to rise, when does the moon even get to decide? When does the moon ever even get to decide? It's the same old back and forth. Nobody wanna give you more than they take. It's the same old metaphor. A consolation rainbow for your pain. Consolation rainbow for all your pain.
That was so beautiful. That's a single I would hear right now on the radio.
That was I shouldn't have done that. I hate it. No, I hate winging it.
I literally wanted you to play a song, but I wasn't gonna force you, and you just did. So that was so perfect.
My therapist appointment is at 3:00 on Thursdays, and every once in a while she's a couple minutes late, and so every once in a while I catch the very beginning of Kelly Clarkson's show, where she opens every show with a performance. She sings a song. Very smart, lead with your strengths, right? And she is essentially her own musical guest. And I'm like, I should do the same, right?
I think you should
every time I do this.
I really think you should.
I certainly have a lot of songs to sing.
You got
I know who that is.
So much good. Oh, you do?
You're welcome, Joy.
See,
I gotta record.
I needed this.
Oh yeah. Well, it's I need to slow it down and pace it out right. I don't know. It's I feel like I rushed it.
I love your voice too. It says, "Thank you so much. You always touch my soul. Love your voice." I feel the same about it. It's a very hit you to your core style he has. Just I don't know how you do it, but it's magic.
It's everybody says I don't know what to do with it. It's the I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. That's my problem. I should call that guy. There's a guy in Jersey, Brody. Call me. I should just take him up. He's offered to help me out, and I'm being such a weirdo about it. I'm like, I don't know, because he's an excellent
to record. Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's like I don't like even the stuff that I got from the foundation, like these slippers, they slide on the water, so I can't wear them in the shower, or like the coffee pot is broken and it slips and I drop it all the time because it's like, and the key light doesn't work. Like I don't even have a light right now because it didn't work. And so like everything is a little weird, and that just makes me go, oh, it's a PTS thing, and like,
oh god,
you know what I mean, right? But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you gotta fight this shit.
Honestly, that is something like anytime anything goes wrong, get sick, get in a car accident, it's just sad because my conditioning, the first thing that goes to is like, oh, you're PTS, you're a potential trouble source, like you need to handle that. And it's not fair to anybody to have that as their first thought.
And I think I have found that these are my people, the PTS.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, because, some of us, that's just what life is, stuff just fucking happens. Like, as soon as I'm trying to talk to people, my phone stops working, stuff like that. And that's not nothing but just, whatever, the universe going, try again.
Ye old universe.
Yeah, there's my God, the universe.
So that's why he is the GOAT.
The GOAT.
Yep. Exactly.
Greatest of all time.
I know. So you want to spend a little bit more time on the YouTubes?
I love this Pride Flower Rainbow Heart. Spelling out your
it would come out as an emoji, but for whatever reason on StreamYard it spells it.
No, I love it though. I love the spelling out. Pride flower, that'll be the next evolution of the emoticons. Now we'll start typing it out as the novelty.
What we actually mean.
Type out winky smiley face. No, not even just
backwards.
Type out the right. Revert back. The de-evolution. It's human to be PTS. Yes, I guess it is. But we weren't supposed to be human. We were supposed to be superhuman. We were supposed to be Ubermensch, above it all somehow,
Yeah, theta ass potatoes.
Oh. Anyway, I think I have to go. I hear my dog is whining at the back. All
right, well, let's do this more often.
Yes, let's do this. Let's do it all the time. I would just want to do it more and just be on the thing and sing songs. Let's try to do it once a week at least. I've got crazy stories to tell. I didn't even tell you about the dog whisperer story. I gotta tell you the stories. Anyway, and questions. I want people to ask questions. Can we do that too?
Yeah. And the more that we do it, the more it will build and people will just watch and they'll have more and more to talk about because they'll keep asking more and more questions. So it feeds into itself, And
I have a notebook now here. I'm making notes of things to talk about.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm going to do the same.
Distortions. So we talk about sex, drugs, love, politics, money, and religion.
Hey, it's all easy. What are we
the only things worth talking about.
Yeah, I guess it's time to tend to our puppies. I have 3 around here too.
Once again, the dog hit a button. That was the joke. Was the last time I did the thing with Nora and Liz, as I titled it something that Nora said when the dog was in my lap and accidentally hit a button and disconnected us. And Nora goes, "Oh, I guess the dog hit the button." I think the dog hit a button. And I was like, "That's a great title. The dog hit a button," because we're talking about pushing buttons and antagonizing and all that kind of stuff. And, the idea of pushing buttons.
Yeah.
The dog pushed a button.
Dog is pushing your buttons.
I have to. I'll re-listen to this and I'll title it something that one of us said in the chat.
Oh yeah.
All right, Vanessa. Yes, let's do this every week. Why not?
Okay.
Just keep me on it. Just keep me up. Just keep on me because I'm a lazy sod.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I know. Peggy says you can do your own,
it.
And maybe I will, and that's probably what I should do. But like, I feel the pressure.
It's just not that fun, you guys.
And also, I get performative. Like when I'm by myself, I feel this pressure to perform, and then I start narrating, and I don't. That's not what works. I don't want to narrate. I just want to have a conversation, and that's when I feel like I think I say the best things that are worth saying and worth hearing. So, when I get
I feel the same. I feel like I'm not important enough to sit here and lecture. Like, I just want to talk with my friend, and hopefully some people get some stuff from it, or not, or just.
But sometimes I do. Sometimes I do get a little like, thing in my craw about something, and I want to say something about it. But
get on there.
I just don't know. Yeah, but I always want to talk about the kind of shit that people get really mad at you about. I want to talk about politics. I want to talk about. Well, like I said, I want to talk about sex, drugs, love, politics, money, and religion. Rock and roll.
Well, my screen's frozen now, so I guess I'll end the stream.
That's it. God, trying to tell us something right now.
StreamYard is over us.
All right. Mwah. I will talk to you later.
Mwah.
Bye.
Okay, bye.